All right, let's talk a little bit about the offer and the offers to purchase and how you actually have to communicate those and write them and get them to them. Remember that we work under the statute of frauds, which says that we have to have offers in writing. Our offers have to be written, and that offer is hopefully going to be a contract, so all of the elements of a contract have to be in your offer. It has to have compensation, has to have mutual assent, has to be for a legal purpose, has to be an offer or extend the offer to what you're going to do, i.e. pay them money and they're going to give you the property. We do not allow oral offers. Just like we don't allow oral purchase agreements, oral listing contracts, oral deeds, none of that. All of that works under the statute of frauds. Was there I saw somebody was getting ready to make a comment. Okay, no. Have you guys had that yet? I get that. I've had that several times where they'll call and go, well, tell the guy I'll give him $100,000. Yeah.
Is that just for here? Is that just for here?
Just for state of Indiana? Yeah, to my belief, I think Indiana, I think a lot of them all work under the statute of frauds. I think real estate in general has to be a statute of fraud.
But in the
People
class,
pay more
you
for
said
these classes.
basically residential, because you said commercial, there's a lot of hypothetical until you guys get
Well, even the hypothetical's written, but it's not really an offer. That's why, remember the word binder, and I said it was a bad word? I just taught that this morning. They use the word binder to do that, and I always call it a letter of intent. It is actually written, but it's not technically binding, so it's not really an offer.
Okay.
Because that's the whole point. It's just a series of bullet points that said, and in my example when I said it's hypothetical, because it's hypothetical because it's not binding. We'll pay you $1 million standing on our head wearing a blue turtleneck, and you counter instead of 1.1 million wearing green. We negotiate those points. They are in writing.
Okay.
And then I give that to an attorney and say, write me a purchase agreement with these 16 bullet points in it, hand it to you, and you accept it one time. That agreement, though, you could literally go, Fangula, I ain't taking those 16 points. Even though we agreed on them, it's not binding because it's not really an offer. Because we can't write an offer, we're not attorneys. Have you guys exercised the kiss of death yet by calling your client to tell them we have an offer coming? That's the kiss of death. Don't do that. I just did it again with Brent because he's a friend of mine. And I even told him when I did it, I said, normally I wouldn't tell my client this because this is ultimately the kiss of death. When the other agent calls and says, hey, we like the house, I think we're going to write an offer on it. So you call your client and go, hey, they like the house, they're going to write an offer on it, and the offer never materializes. Now your client calls you and goes, what the fuck, man? You said you were going to write an offer, what happened? I don't know. Now it makes me look stupid, which is not that hard, so I don't need any more help. So that's usually the kiss of death. I would advise you, just from an experienced person to kind of a new person, don't do that. Just if the agent says, I'm going to write an offer, just keep that under your hat until it comes in. Because there's no good outcome. There's no better outcome than would be if you waited. All right? So that's the kiss of death. When you present the offer as the listing agent, you should always, listing agents wouldn't present offers. See, I was testing you guys. As the selling agent, one of the things that's always on that train of that thread on Facebook that I keep is people that will send offers over and not call the agent and tell them it's coming. Please make sure that, just as a general courtesy, also you never know that the email maybe not got through. When I send an offer over, I always, first of all, I'm paranoid about attachments because things with attachments seem to get lost easier. So I will almost always send an offer with the attachment. I will then send a second email that says, hey, I just sent you an offer, did you get it? Or a voicemail or a text now. But you guys should, as part of your ethics, just do that, because you think you sent the offer over, they've missed it, and you go, hey, you guys blew through the deadline an hour ago, and they're like, I didn't even know we had an offer. You know, so I think as a general courtesy, you guys, when you write an offer, probably should somehow follow up with somebody. And one of the things that makes me paranoid now, like I said, I almost always, and I think I did it with you guys the other day, let me know you got this. That way I don't want anybody coming knocking at the door at 1 o'clock going, I didn't get it. Right, Dave?
Right.
I had Dave's wrong number, though. That was my fault in that particular case. And I didn't take heed of my own thing because he did never get back with me. I should have followed up a second time and said, oh, and so, hey, how come? But I was just like death warmed over that day, so it didn't matter.
So I have some cash buyers that I put an offer on a bank-owned property. And I deal with a lot of foreign buyers, so communication and sending documents for whatever reason always seems to be a barrier that I have to overcome continuously. So these guys have finally got the proof of funds, and it was a photo of a letter from PNC Bank that was signed by PNC Bank saying that they have this much in
Yeah.
account numbers and stuff. And I didn't think anything of it. I just kind of saved it and attached it with the offer. But then later on, it came up to by another agent or someone else in the
Photoshop.
that said, no,
Oh.
they said that they didn't, whenever they got something that was not a PDF and it was a photo of a document, it always threw a red flag for them. And so I wondered if maybe it could have affected my offer because I sent a photo of proof of funds instead of an actual PDF.
Well, the way you pose the question, the answer is yes, it could have affected your offer. I think that would have to have been classified under paranoia. I mean, if they got a picture of a letter and they actually got a letter and they distinguished the whole sole difference was that, that seems to be a little paranoia.
Yeah, I didn't think about someone brought it to me. It just did not occur
Yeah.
to me that it could affect my offer by sending.
Well, I know a guy that actually has an offer on PDF, but he's got PDF Writer, and he literally has changed the date on the letter several times. So even PDFs now.
Yeah. To me, I mean, a picture of a document is just as good as a PDF to
Yeah.
me, but I didn't, it's funny because the person that had told me about it, he had sent a listing to, it was a for sale by owner, and he's a wholesaler. So he said, as soon as you get that listing agreement signed and sent to me, I'll send my buyer over to go look at your property. So they sent him a picture of his document, and they had slid another piece of paper under it that they signed, and it was clear, you could see the line. And so that's where the conversation came up about it. He's like, no, I want the PDF. That's
Yeah.
where it came up.
Well, realize any seller or buyer has the right to kind of control their own, that doesn't work for me,
Right.
filter. And there are I've had some deals where bank-owned homes make you qualify with their lender before you put an offer in, even though you may not use them. That sole reason is that reason.
Yeah.
That you could go to Billy Joe Jim Bob Bank of First Loan, Kentucky, and get an approval letter, and if they don't recognize that institution, they're going to say, I don't care. So by forcing you to do what?
I had one where I refused to do that, and they still allowed me to send my banking information and stuff. Where they said, hey, we want you to get approved through ours, and you don't have to use this, but we want you to do it, and I said, no.
Yeah.
We were buying it for ourselves.
Well, some people, I've seen that too, where they said, we want you to get qualified with XYZ lender, so that way we can dictate whether you really are. And some clients have done it and then used them. We did one where one client did it, brought his own lender, and then I would probably say 60% of the time, we've had a lot of them just say, screw them, I ain't doing it. You know, I'm not doing it. If they don't want my financial institution's letter,
You want my sale, you don't.
yeah. So, and that comes from that lender or whoever that seller is. That's their filter to make sure that whoever the buyer is can qualify by going through one that they recognize or control.
I've seen that, but it was a non-bank-owned home. So I think the listing agent probably was in cahoots with the lender to try to get
Yeah. I went to one, or I had one done, where we had to qualify to go to the viewing. Yeah. Because, yeah, it was a $1.8 million home,
Oh, well, that makes sense.
and that was their method to keep out the looky-loos, and I just want to go see the hot tub in the bathroom, and yada, yada.
Could be a criminal trying to see what you could run.
Yeah, well, that could be true in any home.
Case in the place, yeah.
But in order to schedule a showing, you called Centralized Showing Solutions, and they're like, oh, you got to call they had their CSS's number. This made no sense. CSS's number under the showing. When you called CSS, they said, call the agent. I'm like, you could have just said, call the agent
Right.
when it started.
Is it the nature of the business or the nature of the people in the business? Because reading some of the stuff on your page and hearing some of the stories, we're a very non-trusting profession.
A bunch of people go on that thing and see a bunch of stupid stuff. I'm like, I'm never gonna say anything on there because I don't wanna say the stupidest half of these.
Or you don't want people to attack you.
You talking about on on his thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't say shit on there.
Yeah, people attack,
One
man.
lady's like had this little picture of the thing you run the wires through in the closet, and she's like, "What is this?" And I'm like,
And someone's like, it holds the cord.
Yeah, I didn't know what.
"What is it?"
I
She
didn't
goes
know
in
what
the
it was.
closet, and I'm thinking, yeah, a lot of people use, the red sensor, and they put it in the closet. They don't have to have it out in the open. But I'm thinking,
Their what sensor?
oh gosh, I'm thinking of it and I'm losing my mind because I'm saying.
I didn't know what it was.
RF sensor. So it's like a red laser sensor, so it can read through walls for your remote control for your, audio and stuff. Audio and cable.
I see your lips moving, but I don't hear what you're saying.
Now, like I'm talking to an
Wow.
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 But I was just kind of like looking at it going, gosh, I'm a 45-year-old woman and I know what that is.
That was
No idea.
I didn't, it's a sensor that goes through the wall.
If you want to set up your audio and you don't want it sitting in front of your television and stuff like that, even for your video cameras and stuff like that, you can put it all in a closet, use an RF sensor, and use it to pick it up through the wall. So you can sit in your living room and choose the stuff, and it's not sitting out in the open.
Oh, I didn't know. I've not seen that. Didn't know. I obviously that makes sense. didn't know what it was. But people do tend to attack. I think to your point is, I think our business is almost kind of like a police officer. We deal with so many people that are so varying degrees of bad that you just start to expect it out of everybody, which is wrong. But I mean, we do. When I hear stuff now, the first thing I'm thinking of is, how's he lying, or what's the twist? And maybe that's a wrong thing to think. But I mean, when I've done over 400 closings, and not 2 of them have been the same. There's always something that's different about them, or the person, or they twisted this, or they did that, or we had a problem here, or the husband and wife won't talk to each other. I mean, Dawn can tell you that. She's done enough closings.
Oh, yeah. The thing I had to laugh about, have you seen the one that's on there now about the lady who said I think it's a lady, I could be wrong. She submitted an offer, and she contacted the agent, and the agent said, we've already got an offer.
Yeah, and they didn't sign the rejection form.
Yeah, and just having a fit and feel like, how do you even know that he even submitted that offer?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
And I'm like, man, that's pretty paranoid.
You get jaded that way.
Yes.
Well, all it has to happen is one time, and I think we've talked about this, where I know for a fact that the person didn't submit my offer because the ultimate buyer of the house was in the class with me. It was a luck situation. And so that happens one time, and then from here on out, you start thinking things like that. But in her position, she said she offered full price,
No, she said 1,000 over.
or 1,000 over full price, and it got turned down. Okay, that's a flag back to me.
Everyone's saying, why don't you submit a highest and best?
Yeah.
Why don't you just say that? If you.
Well, even if you offer over a price, if you're not up to or catching up to speed, what happened was client put an offer in on a listing at 1,000 over the price. Never heard anything back. Ultimately, the listing agent called back and said your offer's not been accepted, and we've already accepted another one. This girl that's offer did not get accepted is now asking the question, how do I know it actually got presented? Because who in the hell would turn down $1,000 over full price offer, or at least not counter if they had a second one?
Right.
The general consensus of everybody that's answering on there, once again, is a paranoid consensus. That agent, the listing agent, is doing a me deal so that they get both sides of the commission, and even though that the offer is probably less, it's probably still making
Or they
two
could've-
sides.
They could have accepted the offer prior to that one coming in and just not updated it on my board yet, before her offer went in.
Well, that's not how this reads, because she said before I put the offer in, called them.
Oh.
Now, there is one other example. There is one other situation that could happen. This used to happen on HUD homes. There were people that were getting HUD home bids, that were bidding less than other people because they were taking less commission, because what HUD used to do was take the commission off of the price as well. So like if your client offered 10 grand and you wanted $3,000, they got a net of 7.
Got it.
My client could offer 9 grand and I take 1,000, they would get a net of 8. They would have accepted my offer even though yours was higher, because they took the net off. So now if this girl was doing a me, and let's say she did a variable commission, 7% for two sides but 4% for one side, it's possible that the offer with above 1,000 above, by the time you figured 7%, actually netted less than a me that was full price. Now, I'm not saying she did that, but that's a potential answer. That might be a valid answer. If I do both, and we've done that before, 7%, but if I bring the buyer, I'll knock it down to 4. Okay? Well, if you're now talking two equal offers, one comes from Kim and one comes from me, my offer's better because the commission's only 4%, where it's 3%. Matter of fact, that's why now you have to disclose if it's a variable listing for that particular reason. Theoretically, Kim could even offer more money and still have a lower net because of that 3% difference. So it's possible that could happen too. But everybody's automatically accusing this other listing agent of doing something underhanded. So.
I've only seen that one guy get attacked, that guy who always puts his foot in his mouth every time he posts something. I don't understand, but he always.
Yeah, I know, it scares me. I'm like, I don't even want to comment, 'cause I'm afraid my comment will be something that's.
Oh, you'll be good.